So we have with us Kunal Nandwani. So Kunal, would you like to kickstart, please?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Kunal Nandwani. I run a couple of tech companies, started as startup, but now they've grown and matured. I have built a Bitcoin and blockchain technology company in the last 4-5 years as well. So because of that experience, I've seen the evolution of cryptos, blockchain, tokens, and I can sort of relate with the upcoming stuff, including NFTs, Metaverse, Web3, etc. So I started getting involved in the space more out of curiosity, just trying to learn. And then in the process, I learned a thing or two, which hopefully I'd be able to share here. And just very excited to see where the world goes. And particularly interested in demystifying the myths and the hypes from the potential real values. I think history is a very good way of judging where we got to, how we got to, and what happened, and trying to take things in perspective puts us at a better spot now, trying to foresee the future. So I think it's a good thing to look at this evolution. Maybe let's start with the internet in the first place. So internet was, before it was internet in late 80s, early 90s, it was essentially an intranet for US military, right? You might have heard of that in the 70s and 80s. This was the way US military guys were communicating among themselves, exchanging information. So that intranet evolved into internet, which became public in the 90s. And essentially what happened in the 90s was that the information, the static or dynamic information of different companies, their products, their brochures, their offerings, basic content, stories, blogs, jokes, all these things got online. Rather than them just coming into your print media, they started coming online. Think about yahoo.com, think about santavanta.com, think about everything that came in the 90s, and Amazon as an example also started in that time frame. So essentially that was what we call, or where we would like to sort of draw the line for Web 1.0, which is static information coming from the companies themselves, coming from the provider of information themselves, coming from the creators themselves, the owners themselves. Of course, in 1999, like many times this happens in the startup world and many other capitalistic scenarios, valuations of companies far exceeded the potential value they were able to deliver at the time. We saw the dot-com crash in 99-2000. That meant that there was a big fallout from the potential companies, and they actually had to now develop stuff in order to justify the value and the interest that was piqued by different people. And remember, those were the days. Most of you, I'm guessing, would remember that there were dial-up modems. It was 56 kbps used to be a great speed that we would get. There were only so many things we could do with that level of internet. That was Web 1.0. But then came the period between 2005 and 2010. Dial-up modems became broadbands became faster. 0.5 Mbps speeds were available in most places. Internet started to come into mobiles as well, very slow, but started coming in somewhere between 2005, 6, 7 period. I'm still talking pre-iPhone, the Nokia days. That's when, because of the better internet speeds, wider adoption, now the Web 2.0 started to emerge, which essentially included not just the contributions coming from the corporates themselves or the companies and the creators themselves, but from the common public, from users like you and me. Social media took off. We could contribute. Everyone became a microblogger. Twitter took off. Facebook took off. Various other things happened, through which now the information was not only coming from the original creators, but from different crowdsourced from different people, bunch of individuals, and every internet user actually. The benefit though still was getting passed to the main platforms, the companies like Facebooks and Twitters and Googles of the world, but everyone was contributing. So that's how The Web 2.0 came, internet became faster, cloud, mobile became more possible, made a lot more possibilities. And post 2010 and post iPhone and post internet of 2G, 3G speeds, the streaming became possible, streaming became big. And this is the Web 2.0 period between, let's say, 2005 to 2020 or so, 2018, 2020 or so, which we can define as Web 2.0, where all the users are contributing, but not necessarily benefiting from it. Every post you put on Insta makes Insta go viral, but you don't get anything from it, right? So that's a Web 2.0 where content is coming from the crowd, it's being highly crowdsourced, but still a bunch of platforms are still owning the internet. Google, Facebook decides what fake news or not. Apple decides what to charge the different gaming companies or their platform companies. Amazon decides how to squeeze the merchants that are out there. So there is a problem in Web 2.0, which is that it is not decentralized. If you think about 80s or 90s, Walmart was a big commerce giant, still is, but all internet did was replaced Walmart with Amazon, right? Web 1 and 2 just made Amazon bigger, but still Amazon is in the middle. It's still reasonably centralized. The control of governments through these platforms is still reasonably high. You can think about the Google, Facebooks, Twitters getting called by different governments for different things, whether it's the election campaigns, whether it's the fake news agendas, etc., right? But there is ample control. Now the internet is not as borderless as it was thought to be, or as it was intended to be. This is what Web 3.0 becomes, which is an attempt to make it truly decentralized. No Facebooks in the middle, no Amazons in the middle. There would be companies, don't get me wrong, there would be protocols, there would be technologies, but the power will go back to the people. That's the thought process, that's the intent. Where if you are contributing something to Facebook, you should be benefiting from it as well. And this has been made possible by technologies like blockchain. This has been made possible by tokens like cryptos and variety of other things that are coming. So the intent of Web 3.0, which is yet to come, is the following: more decentralized internet, less dependence on anybody in the middle. There is no Googles and Facebooks, hopefully, in that world. Contributors, everyone own their data. Privacy is in their hands. If they want to sell the privacy, they will get paid for it. But it's not that Facebook by default or Instagram or Google by default are benefiting from every content that we are producing. We become part profit. We take the profits that all these big platforms make by the content we are creating. So that's one of the things, as Nikunj is going to talk about, the creator economy as well. So Web 3.0 is essentially the internet which is decentralized, which is where the contributors, every consumer contributor, are interacting, transacting more directly. And due to technologies like cryptos and blockchain, this can be conceived today, at least theoretically. How it would still work out remains to be seen. There are some challenges in it. We'll cover those maybe if the time permits. But essentially, this is what Web 3.0 is. Let me clarify a couple of things. Web 3.0 and Metaverse are different. So Metaverse is probably a topic for another time. Metaverse is where we are living in a virtual world. Okay, Web 3.0, internet, many other technologies would play a role there, but this is not a Metaverse conversation. Metaverse is a potential outcome, use case after Web 3.0 or even without Web 3.0. That's one thing I want to clarify. And second thing is that Web 3.0 is still broadly a thought process. It's a philosophy. It needs to be, and we need to see under the hood what many people claim that we are building the Web 3.0, Web 3.0 is coming. We need to really see if we are not doing the same thing that where we said that Walmart was replaced by Amazon and now Google is replaced by another protocol company, which is again VC funded and which is again $1 billion intermediary. We just need to make sure it's not just Web 2.01. It is genuinely Web 3.0, which is truly decentralized. That's how Tim Berners-Lee had imagined the internet. One of the guys quoted as founder of internet. That's what the intent or the thought process behind is. Now, whether the things we are doing are going to take us there, how much time it's going to take, what's going to be the role of big platforms versus the governments versus the individuals, that remains to be seen. It's still an evolutionary thing. But that's broadly what Web 3.0 is. I think this privacy is an interesting point, definitely. So think about Bitcoin blockchain, which is the most used blockchain arguably in some sense. On Bitcoin blockchain, everyone can see all the digital wallets out there, every single address, like Nikunj was also talking about. Think of it, it's an alphanumeric 30 plus character number, but nobody can relate that to you. That's only you who knows that this 123 ABC XYZ 001 is me. Others don't know. So essentially you can see which wallet is holding how much Bitcoin, how many times they transacted, with whom they transacted. So essentially what you're going to end up seeing is A has transacted with B has transacted with C multiple times at different dates. Since 2009, you can get all that data. That's all public, every single transaction. But you will not be able to relate who these top 10 addresses are, who these guys are. Okay, so that's what the pseudonymous bit means, and it doesn't matter if nobody can figure that out. Okay, so just adding one more thing, that's a Bitcoin blockchain, which is the most public and the first blockchain out there. Everything else is a derivative. It has been derived from it and made a little faster, little change in protocol, etc. Reality is, the whole idea of decentralization only works if there is decentralization in the workflows and the world as well. There are some other questions that I'm referring from, and I'll happily share a blog where I've tried to highlight all these challenges. Some of them have been thought of by different people in this group right now, and there are more that I can share as well. First of all, Bitcoin's invention was done as a cryptocurrency in the first place. It was meant to be a peer-to-peer payment system. That's it. It was not an asset, not a store of value. It was later called to be that because of its limited supply. Fair enough. That was the evolution. But frankly, unfortunately, nobody is using cryptos for payments as much as it was intended for. Everyone is just hoarding it and hoping to sell it to someone at a higher price later. Secondly, it was meant to take us away from governments, regulations and all. Remember, it was developed after 2008 of Lehman Brothers crisis, when the financial system was meltdown in some sense. Today, the same regulators are taxing it, regulating it, and all this view that the government can't block your or can't freeze your crypto assets. I'm just trying to find the right word. It's not as true as it looks. Just for the record, FBI, US FBI, which you've all seen from Hollywood movies and otherwise, hopefully, they own one of the largest Bitcoin accounts because of the different seizures they've done on different drugs companies and busts that they've done over time. So FBI owns one of the largest top 10 Bitcoin wallet, where all of that money, all of those Bitcoins are being held, number one. Number two, think about countries like India, for example. The government has recently taxed it. And if you think that your crypto is sitting with any Indian crypto exchange like WazirX or any other, is not gonna be frozen by the government, I think that is not true either. Unfortunately, we still live in a centralized world. The problem is, we're trying to bring a decentralized technology to a centralized world. Whether it's a crypto or a blockchain, it doesn't work. Okay. Decentralization by definition brings lots of challenges. The challenges include, you can't have scale, speed, and stability and security at the same time. Decentralization, just to put this in perspective, imagine I want to pay and I pay 1 Bitcoin to one of you. Do you know how far back it goes in terms of validating that Bitcoin transaction? They'll go to 2009 and see all the way through how did that Bitcoin come to me before I'm giving it to you. So that's a level of energy inefficiency. Decentralization by definition brings it. Nothing wrong with that. That's a world where the world works. If it's a decentralized world, it's going to be slow. It's going to take time. It's going to be energy inefficient. That's a problem which some other blockchains are trying to solve, but they're yet to be adopted by anyone. Everyone is, rather than adopting anyone's blockchain, building their own blockchain. And they're all VC funded. So again, as Pankaj, you were saying, probably it's just changing the guards and having another sheriff versus what we had before. So all these are genuine challenges of the cryptos, the blockchains, and the decentralization technologies, and the problems that they are meaning to solve or trying to solve. But over time, hopefully, somehow the world would get decentralized and this would work out. But at the face of it, as of now, it is not really working as efficiently as we would like. But not to say that this is still not progress. It could still be progress. By going through this phase, maybe we'll come out and figure out how it might work. My gut feeling is it would work way more efficiently in the next 5 to 10 years when machines start interacting with machines on behalf of humans. Machines for interaction with machines may not need government sign-offs, may not need anything else. And I've tried to show this as a potential futuristic use case in one of the blockchain books I wrote 3-4 years ago, where in the future, this might start making sense. But for now, in the short term, there are lots of conflicts and challenges with the current old world and the new world that we are trying to build here. And there are a lot of dreams being sold, which are not necessarily delivering the value that they are promising. And there are lots of challenges and conflicts that are going on. But in time, it could still all be progress. I sincerely hope it is. It would lead to some progress, because otherwise this is not as constructive use of the world resources as it ought to be. We face a lot more real problems than just developing a faster, cheaper, decentralized internet, which may not be developed at all. Why is there so much energy consumption? So again, sticking to the Bitcoin example, I know there are better, faster, more efficient blockchains out there now, but Bitcoin is one of the most used blockchain as such. So like I was saying, imagine in the next few seconds, all of us are transacting Bitcoins among ourselves. We are paying to each other. All those transactions would feed lakhs of Bitcoin mining servers worldwide. They would all check, let's say I'm person A, the pseudonymous address, 30-letter alphanumeric address. My address has given 1 Bitcoin to, say, Ravi, for letting me speak, as an example. And they will check, how did I get it? How did the person who gave me got it? And they will go back till 2009. There would be millions of transactions in between. The lakhs of those servers will check all those billions of transactions. That's why it is so inefficient that a handful of Bitcoin transfers, say in a block, we can have maybe a few hundred or few thousand transactions. Just validating 1,000 transactions, they would be burning the energy that could actually fuel a whole country like Austria. That there were some stats showing that. So this is the inefficiency that by definition comes in decentralization. The moment you start decentralizing, everyone is able to validate and check, and you have to rely on the majority of people getting it right, and the majority driving everything. Community things slow down, right? So decentralization is going to be always slow. That's a given. Can it become more efficient? Of course, with more quantum computing and many other developments, over time it would get greener and better. But then like we said, it's an evolution. Probably it will lead to something more efficient. It's a step we have to go through. And then hopefully after that, we would come up with something which would make sense, right? But in the short term, there are some challenges, and this is one of them.